Hello everyone, this is Gil from AxLabs. As usual, we're going to go through some project updates. So what happened in the last 2 months of development in the Neo ecosystem and projects that we develop and maintain. So we start with Neo3j. And the first thing that we developed was that we roll out dev containers for Neo3j, meaning that it's extremely easy now to get started with Neo smart contract development in Java. So the users, they don't have basically to install anything or to configure anything. We just use dev containers. This dev container is standard, and GitHub code spaces out of the box. So users just have to click in a bunch of buttons, so to say, and have this environment set it up and ready to go. Let me show here, we updated our website documentation. So if you go to neo3j.io, you have here the smart contract development. So you can click in the introduction, and then like after the introduction that we just explained things, there's the setup and compilation. Here we made a kind of tutorial on how to bootstrap using cloning your repo, but then using GitHub Codespace as a tool. Of course, that if you want to develop locally, you have to skip this step to set up in GitHub Codespace, and then you can go directly to the build file and do things locally. This is very useful for workshops, demos, and promotional content to showcase our technology, not only showcase the Neo3j, but showcase how it's easy to develop smart contracts in the Neo ecosystem. We're working to do the same for other languages like Golang, Python, and .NET, but this is a process that we're going to go step by step and start rolling out one by one slowly. Another thing in the context of Neo3j is that we are preparing for Consensus 2023, and we're going to showcase how it looks like to work with Neo3j and Neo as a whole. Of course, they're going to use the GitHub code spaces also to showcase, and the highlight should be the one-stop shop that you can do Java smart contracts plus JUnit tests plus integration tests and your Java backend all in one repo, all in one thing. We're going to show during the conference some GIFs and some videos, and of course our docs. Now let's go to the updates about GrantShares. And the main thing that we've developed or that we've done during this time is to collect some KPIs, some key performance indicators. We at AxLabs, we pretty much value measuring things and showing numbers and trying to understand if things are working, not working, how can get better, etc. So one of the things that we had to dig into data, like comments, amount of measure the amount of proposals, check it out funding categories, etc., etc. So we got some interesting findings about on which proposal the community engaged, for example. And the goals, to measure all these KPIs is twofold. First, to showcase in Consensus, of course, but then publish a report to the whole community because I think we have the responsibility on showing how we're spending the money of the DAO and how we can go from there. Another thing that we've done is in the context of GrantShares is the preparations for a Consensus conference. So we crunch all these KPIs and data and give some meaning to it because we have to present in the Consensus on a way that is appealing to the public, on a way that people understand. So it's not a lot of data, it's just some very key points to get people's attention and to get people engaged, but I think it's worth to crunch and to go to this extra mile. So we are preparing a material that introduces and educates about GrantShares on Neo. So about like the GrantShares DAO, how it works, how to submit the proposals, etc., etc. More or less what we've done last year, but the difference is that last year GrantShares was not up and running during consensus conference, and now GrantShares is up and running and there's traction. So the goal is to motivate builders to submit proposals on GrantShares. Also, we've done some maintenance and facilitation in GrantShare. So we just went and investigated a bunch of bugs and fixes and rollout fixes, of course. There were some minor app improvements. It's not exactly a feature, but it's improvement. For example, uh, recently a DAO member changed their address, their Neo N3 address, and our DApp was not prepared to accumulate all the votes from different addresses when a member changed their address, So we have to kind of like adapt our backend in order to take into account both addresses and show into the dashboard of the DApp. So we also done like we check on proposal execution and collect information about what is the state of the proposals for the reporting page. And of course, we had also to push a lot of conversations and the discussions because otherwise proposals get stuck, and we have to facilitate. Let's put this way. From who submitted a proposal and like the DAO members in the DAO community. So yes, that's it from our side. I hope that you could understand a bit like on what happened this 2 months. This is a very, very brief summary. And thanks for your attention. Shoot us for some questions, and that's it. See you next time. Cheers.
G'day everyone, Dean here from Neo News Today. Just here to give you our February-March development update. So as you probably know, the projects that we take care of from a development point of view are GasBot and NDAP. So as far as GasBot goes, some of the features that you may have noticed have been added to the bot over the last couple of months. We've added the ability for users to create giveaways with all tokens. So we introduced this feature, but it was restricted just to gas. Now you can use any NEP17 token that GasBot supports to do giveaways. So hopefully communities find that useful. Obviously you can create those giveaways in any Discord server that supports GasBot, but it's a fun way to create a little bit of engagement. We've also added a gas faucet. So now if you participate in one of these giveaways and you win some tokens, maybe it's the first time you've received a NEP17 token to your GasBot account. Well, as you all know, you need gas to perform transactions on the Neo N3 network. If you do not have gas and you have a NEP17 token in your account, you can use the faucet command to get a drop of gas, and that will allow you to either withdraw the tokens or tip another user and things like that. It is limited, so you can only use it so often to avoid it being exploited. But we think that's a handy feature. When someone comes into a new server, is entering Neo for the first time, gets some tokens, that helps greases the wheels a little bit so they don't get stuck. Some other things we've done, we added FUSD support. There are some quality of life improvements. The biggest one is now when you lose a giveaway, it doesn't post a message in the public channel that you lost. So it just cleans it up a little bit. If you had done a giveaway with maybe like a 20% chance of winning, there's a lot of losers, and that was kind of spamming up the channels a bit. So now it'll just post when people win the giveaway. We also had a core code audit done by Red4Sec, and we also had a legal review as well. So in the pipeline right now, we're implementing a trivia feature which kind of builds upon some of the primitives of the giveaways, and it'll basically allow you to do giveaways but based on someone answering a question correctly. So you set a question and an answer, and when someone guesses it, then they get the tokens. So that's already under development. We will address the report from Red4Sec. We're looking at integrating NFT support. This is in the scoping phase at the moment, but basically what it will do is allow you to permission giveaways and things like that based on people owning a certain NFT that you would set, right? So if you wanted, holders of your project's NFT to be able to participate in a giveaway, but others not, or you wanted to do some sort of special campaign, you would be able to do that. And then we'll also implement some new features based on our legal review and things like that. What else? NDAP. So NDAP, over the last couple of since we last did this, you may have noticed that we've added support for the For the Win API. So you can now see tokens from their exchange on their platform, also visible in the token section on NDAP. So you got a more complete overview of Neo's token ecosystem. And then in the pipe, we've got quite a lot actually going on with NDAP in development at the moment. We've got the advanced gas calculator, which basically allows you to choose different council candidates and see theoretically how much gas you would earn based on that selection. We've got a bunch of SEO improvements almost ready to go, including some speed optimizations, things like that. Wallet Connect support is in the works because that will unlock a bunch of new features that we plan to integrate. We have NFT collections. So this is similar to our tokens page, but it will give you kind of market information about NFT collections. This is in design and scoping at the moment. And we also have token swaps via Flamingo. So if you're exploring the tokens page or you're exploring the dApps and you find something that looks interesting, you will be able to connect your wallet and then perform a swap using the Flamingo exchange on NDAP to get the tokens that you're interested in. So that has been scoped and it is currently in design, and that will be moving on to development very shortly. So that's about it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We actually have a new GasBot Discord server if you have questions for or suggestions for GasBot. So you can find that on ndap.org/GasBot and let us know if you need us for anything there. Otherwise, good to talk to you, and I'll see you again in another 2 months. Thank you.
Hello, dear friends. My name is Bozi Melo, and I am thrilled to present to you the latest wallet updates. In the past few weeks, we have successfully rolled out significant updates for both our mobile and Chrome extension wallets. That's right, the moment has finally arrived. This time, the extensive updates for both the mobile and extension wallets aim to deliver an enhanced experience for our users and enriched opportunities for developers. We have introduced numerous new features in these updates, such as dark mode, a completely redesigned interface, streamlined functions, a more secure private key storage method, and improved password lifecycle management. Our dedicated development team is constantly working to provide a more comprehensive, secure, and reliable wallet service for all of our users. Additionally, we have integrated dAPI functionality. This feature enables users to interact more easily with dApps while allowing developers to build dApps even more conveniently. Consequently, this fosters a superior UX and heightened security for decentralized applications. We anticipate that this new feature will offer our community an abundance of opportunities and advantages, and we are eager to see more dApps integrated into our wallet. Moving forward, we will persist in our efforts to develop and implement new features that cater to the changing demands of the market and users. Furthermore, we recognize the importance of security and reliability and are committed to continuously optimizing our wallet services to safeguard our users' assets. All in all, we appreciate your unwavering support and interest. We are excited about the future and look forward to fostering further growth and advancements within our community. Thank you.
Hello, I am Vitor from NeoResearch team. It's a pleasure to speak to you again. Today I'm going to introduce to you some basic directions that our team has been working in the past 2 months. So we advanced on the aspects of 3 dBFT 3.0 consensus unit tests, and also we consolidated some of our previous possibilities for sidechain science on the blockchain, and we advanced a lot in designing a smart contract that will make the management of what we call smart papers. So first of all, regarding the unit tests, what happened? Some couple of years ago, let's say 4 years, we pushed unit tests for dBFT 2.0 using ACA tests, unit test kit, and that took us some time to design the cases, because we simulate consensus step by step. That's the way we found best at that time. And however, what happened? We need to return this test to the models, because since the consensus part of new core was moved to new models, we need to introduce to create these unit tests again. And after we have this basic structure for unit tests done, we can advance on new tests for dBFT 3.0 with something that we already advanced. We used the previous examples, and we already created some cases that gonna extensively test the new idea of 2 speakers. So we are close to submit this pull request that will first of all return the unit test to dBFT 2.0, and later on we're gonna present the new unit test for the pull request, the ongoing pull request of dBFT 3.0. Something we didn't include in these slides, but we have been working, and we had some brainstorming sessions in the last couple of weeks, was regarding after dBFT 3.0 is merged, what we gonna do to improve governance. And that's something we have been discussing, because dBFT 3.0 opened the possibilities for us to have like more temporary consensus, temporary nodes on the network, because we have a fallback primary. So this is something we're going to discuss later on the next meetings. Regarding sidechain, initially our team was focused a lot on zero knowledge concepts for sidechain, but we did some brainstorming sessions also in the last couple of months, and we had some meetings with other researchers, and we identified that a core need of science is also smart papers. Is also the management of templates, and that's what we are calling smart papers. Smart papers will be some set of rules and templates that users, researchers, senior researchers can create in a way that the community can submit, the scientific community can submit papers following this template. By following these templates that we're gonna offer in our smart contract structure, these templates can have different ways to measure. Let's talk first of all about computer science papers that have some efficiency parameter. So these smart papers can trigger some mechanism to evaluate the code, if the codes are hosted on GitHub, for example, and by using that, we can use oracles to extract those data, and we can verify some important things of the paper during the submission. So we believe this concept of smart papers is aligned with sidechain. That's why we evolved in this aspect in the last 2 months, and we consolidated also that we need to use NFTs and secure storage that we have new already. We have NeoFS. We can also make connections with IPFS, and we are still discussing regarding authentication for those who gonna use the system. If we need a partnership with some decentralized identity project on Neo, which is also related to the reputation system that we plan to have some basic concepts there. But maybe it will not be quickly needed, since we're going to evolve now on the concept of smart papers and run away a little bit from double-blind peer review, because we initially thought that double-blind peer review is something quite important, and it is, but basically we would offer a blockchain layer of something that is already going on in the science and in other journals. And in this sense, we believe that we still may do that. We still will use zero knowledge concepts in sidechain, and we also got this pull request merged on new core that we now have BLS pairing cryptography, pairing friendly cryptography. So we are one step from really using this on sidechain, but we also would like to show to you and introduce this concept of smart papers that we believe going to be something really interesting in our project. Okay, thank you. We keep in touch.
Let's take a look at what NeoSPCC has done for the months of February and March, and we start with NeoFS. In the previous video, we've told that we're working on bringing NeoGo consensus node into the NeoFS in a ring node. I'm glad to say that this work is finished and we have appropriate changes merged now into the master branch. So this is going to be a part of the next NeoFS release and will allow to simplify maintenance and deployment in many cases. Speaking of the other merged things, we have also brought changes from the 0.35 support branch into the master. Previously, we had so-called support branches maintained for every minor NeoFS release, but this had slowed us down somewhat while not bringing a lot of benefit given the stage the project currently is at. So we will no longer be doing that, and starting from the next release, we'll be using just the master branch for the upcoming changes, and hopefully this will allow us to move a little faster. We found and fixed a number of object replication problems in testnet and mainnet. Some less severe issues were identified and resolved as well. All of these will be included in the upcoming NeoFS node 0.36.0 release, expected to be out in the beginning of April. 2 months ago, we've talked about dropping notaryless mode from NeoFS, and it's done for contracts now. It took us some time to ensure proper migration for notary-disabled networks to notary-enabled mode, and actually required creating a contract update testing framework in the process. This change is not yet deployed to public networks, but it very soon will be. The next thing on our to-do list with respect to this task is dropping notaryless support code from the node itself. Expect a number of red PRs soon, and that's what's going to be included in the 0.37.0 release of the NeoFS node. We have recently started improving NeoFS test suite. There is a NeoFS test cases repository with a number of integration tests for NeoFS, but some of them are outdated, some of them are broken, some of them really work. So we sorted them out and now trying to create a proper CI/CD pipeline to run these tests for pull requests, branches, releases, and things like that. So expect a number of changes there and expect a better tested NeoFS in the future. One minor thing that I would like to highlight is the recent publication of NeoFS auth repository. It's a very tiny authentication utility that is used by SendFS Neo.org website. It previously was private, but there is nothing secret there, and it can serve as an example of how to create a bearer token. If you're interested in that, you can now have a look at it. Our current most prioritized thing that we are working on is simplifying contract management in NeoFS networks. That means bringing NeoFS contracts into inner ring nodes and auto-deploying them for new NeoFS networks and auto-updating them when inner ring nodes are updated in already running NeoFS networks. This is expected to be completed by the 0.37.0 release of NeoFS node. Right after that, we will start going through the SDK 1.0 issue list. The list itself was reviewed and updated recently, so the roadmap is pretty clear. There are likely to be some release candidates before we get to the final 1.0, so stay tuned and be prepared for SDK upgrades. The most interesting things to land into the SDK soon is the local object slicer and ability to attach front-end generated signatures to various structures. Now, let's get to NeoGo, and we have a new release there. It's still 3.5.0 compatible, but it contains some important bug fixes, especially for those who are running consensus nodes. The only new feature it has is the so-called local RPC client that is to be used by NeoFS nodes with integrated NeoGo. 99.9% of other DApps don't care. Still, we recommend upgrading, and it doesn't require any database resynchronization. By the way, do you know we have an Ansible role for NeoGo? It's there for you to simplify deployment and upgrade and ongoing maintenance of NeoGo. So in February it was updated to support configuration changes made in NeoGo way back in 0.100.0 release. And if you're using it, consider upgrading. If you're still not using it, take a look and maybe it will be useful for you. We had promised some dBFT improvements and we have them delivered now in the form of a new model and behavior specification. This was not easy and requires some effort. Still, we think we have some promising results that are public now. We also have received some initial feedback from NeoResearch guys. Thank you, Igor and Vitor. This allowed us to improve one of the models and even identify and fix an implementation problem that we had in dBFT 2.0 Go code. We also have plans on implementing the so-called dBFT 2.1 in Go, but for now we're waiting for more feedback to solve any issues at the specification level. Eventually, I think it will drive us to better dBFT, but it will probably take us some time to get there. One thing I would like to highlight for the past 2 months is external contributions that we have received from the community. Some of them are pretty small and just some local enhancements for specific use cases. Some are bug fixes and some are whole new protocol updates. So Eric Vandenbrink, John Tao, thank you guys. Together we can make NeoGo even better. Right now we're preparing for the upcoming 3.6.0 C# node release with all of its new features. We have appropriate pull requests ready for NeoGo as well, and the next NeoGo release is expected to be 3.6.0 compatible. There won't be a lot of NeoGo specific features there, but at the same time we will remove some of the deprecated APIs, so please be prepared and take a look at our deprecated API removal schedule. We at the same time should mention that we will still keep old RPC client APIs for this release because we know it's still being used in the wild, and even though technically it's time to remove it, we can't do it now and we will keep it for another release cycle. And after the 0.102.0 NeoGo version, we'll be working on RPC improvements. We want to extend our RPC contract binding generator with event data that we can get from manifests, and we also have RPC error code proposal sitting in the queue for quite some time, so maybe May is going to be the time when we will finally get to implementing it.
This is Steven from NGD Shanghai development team, and here I'm going to introduce what our digital labs team doing in the past 2 months. So first of all, we are still keep working on the Neo core protocol, and we did some bug fix, and also we are preparing for the next release 3.6, and I think most of them are already finished testing and review, and we only have one or two PIs still pending, and we will push them as soon as possible. The second one, we already launched the NeoChat, and it received a lot of good comments and feedbacks from the community and users. We already get more than 200 users and around 400 address, and we will release the user these user amounts to the community. And the third one, we are going to we're working on a multi-signature web portal. So before, if you want to create a multi-signature wallet and sign it by each wallet, you have to do it in NeoCLI or in other hard coding. And we are going to provide a web portal so user can connect it with the NeoLine or other Chrome extension wallet and sign it, create it, manage the multi-signature wallet easily. And it's going to be released in this month. And finally, we are preparing for the Web3 Hong Kong festival. We did some gift for the users, and users can, we referred the idea from last year consensus, and we give user a wallet in the paper, and user can scan it, open the web wallet in the mobile phone, and scan our machine to get a gift. And we are also preparing for the consensus. So see you in Hong Kong and in consensus. Thanks.
Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon. John D here. Wanted to give you an update in terms of two specific new products that we've been working on for some time. By the way, we shipped a preview of both of these a few weeks ago. I want to thank those of you who took the opportunity to play with this and to also give us feedback. Certainly very much appreciated. And please keep the feedback coming. Your input in terms of helping us to prioritize is very, very critical, of course, as you know. So thank you again. So to dive in, two specific products. One we call the N3 shell, and one we call N3 WorkNet. So firstly, the N3 shell. Those of you coming from Windows perspective, you're familiar with the PowerShell set of tools. And if, like me, you came from the Unix or Linux perspective, you are very familiar with the C shell, the Bourne, Bash, and so on. And really, this was, for me, the inspiration for us to build the N3 shell. There was a very clear gap, both in terms of our own tools across the ecosystem, as well as the broader blockchain industry. There's a very clear need for a set of command line tools. And so that was the inspiration for us to work on the N3 shell. The idea is that the N3 command line tool will work against WorkNet, testnet, and TBD against mainnet at this point in time. So what does this contain? It's a core set of smart contract commands for V1. The key is that we will add new commands based on your feedback, your input, and obviously your sense of how to prioritize. A key aspect I want to emphasize here is the extensibility. We are designing the N3 shell, again, much like the C shell or the Bourne or the Bash and so on, with significant extensibility built in. That is a plugin capability for you across the ecosystem, across the community to extend, to add new tools to enhance the N3 shell capability. And this is really how the N3 shell over time becomes more and more powerful in terms of usage. Obviously, we will only build a small set of core, commands, and it's up to you to make this more relevant to your specific scenarios. Obviously, if there are commands you want to see built, quickly and to be prioritized, let me know. We'll obviously build those as well. But the idea is, to build this as a shell, as a tool for us broadly for the ecosystem, not as from, sort of one particular aspect, if you will. There is an interesting angle here that I want to share, which is we have been working on an early version of a command line tracker without any GUI. And you might say, why? Really, two things. One, we want to push the limits of the N3 shell in terms of what we can do. Also, to be able to exercise the design and the architecture constraints we have in place to ensure that we can indeed build a command line version of a tracker for the N3 shell. Think of it as a proof of, I guess, a proof of the design or a proof of the architecture, if you will. So to summarize, really, in the strong heritage of the Unix, Linux shells, we envisioned the N3 shell as a critical set of tools over time for us, and certainly for you to build, to use it, to customize it, and to enhance it for your specific scenarios and use cases. By the way, we'll ship another preview of the N3 shell just before consensus. Once again, I would welcome your feedback, your input as you play with it, as you use it, as you work with it. This is really how we can sort of prune as well as to prioritize our own backlog. So I strongly would urge you, and certainly do thank you very much as you use it, and tell us what you like and what you don't like, so that I can work with our team here to make sure that we do what is right for you. That's the N3 shell. Second, the N3 WorkNet. I want to give you about a few different perspectives in terms of the N3 WorkNet. I will try not to take up too much time here. Obviously, it's a very, very short call. But firstly, the CI/CD aspects. And you know what CI/CD means. In this particular scenario for the WorkNet, we are looking at from a CI perspective, obviously staged build, and pipeline runs based on triggers. In particular, we're emphasizing team testing. We've built the test framework a while ago. More recently, we've shipped for you multiple previews of the code coverage. We are enhancing the earlier work we have done in terms of testing, as well as the code coverage to address code analysis, as well as to do the automation of unit and integration tests. There is one area here in terms of security, which I'm not sure we will do ourselves, but certainly I want to extend the WorkNet to provide the hooks and the plugins for those of you who may have your own tools or your preferred set of tools, if you will, with respect to security that you can plug into the WorkNet. The second piece on the CD side, obviously deployment to testnet, and of course TBD with respect to mainnet, obviously, PAR, policy, regulations, and so on and so forth. In particular, on the CD side, I want to emphasize UATs, user acceptance, as well as perf tests. Critical piece for in terms of obviously as we scale up N3, as we have more and more projects, as we have more and more applications, regression also becomes a particularly key aspect here. Last but not the least, we're also working in terms of being able to do some monitoring with respect to analytics, to be able to trigger, to activate based on a particular set of, let's say, data points, for instance, across WorkNet, testnet, and again, possibly mainnet. It's TBD with respect to how we might go forth on that particular front. Again, caveat policy, etc., etc. A second aspect is around team development. For us, in many ways, this was for me the inspiration of the WorkNet to enable what we call workspaces. That is the ability for individual developers, as well as one or more developers, to isolate a cloned mainnet to work on a specific issue or bug or feature or any specific context sensitive aspects of the cloned instance. Again, I want to emphasize this notion of a workspace within the WorkNet really is for me the inspiration for the N3 WorkNet, to be able to isolate a snapshot and then to be able to test, debug, build, enhance, anything that is, again, context sensitive to that particular snapshot. Secondly, we are looking to enable search, reuse, and cataloging of the smart contract code and snippets. This may be a Postman-like capability using a team repository. Now, obviously, this is a lot more sophisticated, still very early in terms of our development here, but I want to just give you a perspective that as we deep dive into the WorkNet, the notion of a team repository and being able to have extensive search, reuse, cataloging is something we have in our backlog. Last but not the least, we will enable integrations for backlog, managing sprints, bug issues, retrospectives, and so on. Again, key emphasis here is that we are not building all of this. We're building the plugins, much like any other team development tool, we build the plugins and the API so you can plug into your preferred favorite tools for retrospectives or for backlog and so on and so forth. Obviously, we'll build some primitive aspects here, but the goal is not to build an enterprise class, set of integrations ourselves, but rather to be able to connect to existing tools you have, which I believe is the key feedback you gave us last time around. With respect to the cloning the mainnet, WorkNet will enable the cloning of just one, and I want to emphasize this, one mainnet instance. A snapshot of the state will serve as the baseline, and WorkNet will, for all dev scenarios, essentially behave very much like a testnet does, with one caveat. Testnet may have multiple developers in multiple organizations, etc., whereas we designed the N3 WorkNet to be used by a small team of developers within one organization. Again, the clone is designed to be used and then discarded and or superseded with a newer version. The idea being that you will clone a snapshot. Obviously you have a timestamped instance, basically, of the mainnet and all of the associated state, context, etc. And you do what you want to do. And of course, when you have, finished or completed your work in terms of, again, testing, debugging, enhancing, and so on, you want to be able to, once again, clone a new instance, if you will, a new snapshot of the mainnet. And I want to emphasize again, WorkNet is not designed, we have not designed this, we have not built it to support consumer scenarios. Rather, really the goal is, team development, again, professional team development. Obviously, this is not news to you, but for newer developers, I want to emphasize this very clearly. Last but not the least, plugins. Much again in the history, in the if you will, the Unix heritage, we have designed both the N3 shell as well as the N3 WorkNet for plugins. Plugins are used to extend the WorkNet service. Obviously, we are designing a config model to provide metadata at startup for the WorkNet service to instantiate the plugins. Now, plugins add new functionality. They may be used to also override existing functionality. We've designed some, for example, to be able to store, state within the WorkNet. We have designed our own mechanisms. If you feel like you have a different mechanism, something that is more in tune with your needs, we are designing WorkNet to be completely end-to-end extensible, meaning you can add new plugins and you can override existing features via your plugins. We'll obviously follow a very predefined model for tracing and logging, which is critical for debugging the N3 WorkNet itself. For those of you who are patterns people, we are using, in fact, I'm driving this forward, DI, dependency injection as a pattern, which is clearly for us the core to be able to both design and enable the extensibility of the N3 WorkNet. So again, a very brief summary, if you will, of two specific products, the N3 shell as well as the N3 WorkNet. And as always, please do send me your feedback. Give us a feedback on whichever channel you prefer. Your feedback is going to be critical for us to prioritize. There is a very large set of capabilities here, and we're going to take a phased approach. V1 will address the core, the critical core. V2 will obviously be the much more expansive version of both the shell and the WorkNet. But in the short term, you're going to see, like I said, another preview of this well before consensus in April. And again, as always, many thanks to those of you who give us feedback. And if you have not tried it, I certainly would strongly recommend you give it a spin. And please, let us know what you like, what you don't like, and obviously what you would like to see different as well. So that's it for now, guys. Thank you very much. John D again. You have a very good day. Okay, bye-bye.
Hello, everyone. I'm Daniela Valdivieso from Red4Sec Cybersecurity, and today I will be giving you the update of the first quarter of 2023. As discussed in our last meeting, I made a slide with a brief summary of the work and the quarter for those who have difficulties watching all the presentations in time for the meeting. If that's your case, this slide is for you. Otherwise, join me in the full presentation for further details. In the month of January, we finished and delivered 2 audits for Flamingo on FUSD project and for the NeoCompounder, giving us a total of 2 audits, 1 fixes review, and 2 mitigation support. During this month, 2 critical vulnerabilities were found and reported, 1 high risk, 3 low, and 6 informative, for a total of 12 vulnerabilities. Moving over, in the month of February, we provided mitigation support for FUSD and NeoCompounder, and the fixes review for NeoCompounder was conducted and delivered, in addition to the delivery of the final report. In the month of March, our team, motivated by the latest events, considered it of great importance to carry out a small assessment, both for Neo and for NGD. This assessment consisted of an enumeration of assets combined with a superficial pen test to detect vulnerabilities and possible security breaches in the systems and applications of the mentioned communities. This month, we executed the evaluation on Neo and NGD Enterprise, and during the review, we have identified vulnerabilities of critical and high risk levels. Also, we have identified small recommendations that, if applied, would help strengthen the security of the entire ecosystem. During this assessment, 1 critical vulnerability was found and reported, 1 high risk, 4 medium, and 7 informative, for a total of 13 vulnerabilities. Moreover, find a list of the most relevant vulnerabilities found and reported for your reference. It is important to mention that with one of the critical vulnerabilities found this quarter, we were able to take full control of one of the projects. This has been reported to the pertinent team. Finally, find the vulnerability summary overall of the first quarter of 2023, where 3 critical vulnerabilities have been found and reported, 2 high risk, 4 medium, 3 low, and 13 informative, giving us a total of 25 vulnerabilities. That would finalize our quarterly report. Thank you to everyone for your attention, and let's keep the hard work going as always.